Good morning, everyone. Fergus Dolan here from NALA, and we're delighted to have you here this morning for our webinar, our Maths Week webinar on Is Maths Relevant? It's the last in our series of Maths Week's webinars this week, and we're delighted to have Sharon Doyle and Elaine O'Brien from Youth Reach in Blanchetown. They'll be facilitating this morning. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, Fergus.
So we're recording this, and also Sharon and Elaine will send me the presentation afterwards, and I'll email it out to everyone who's registered for this. And by next Monday or Tuesday, if you can go to the NALA YouTube channel to have a look at the video of this recording. Okay, over to you, Sharon and Elaine, and all the best.
Thanks, Fergus. Good morning and welcome. I'm Sharon.
I'm Elaine.
And our presentation is going to be about Is Maths Relevant? And we're going to look at the relevance of maths in your life.
Oh,
yeah.
So this is just a maths project that you could do, because we just found this on somewhere on Google, we don't actually know where, but it's just a little notice board of different things in maths into their lives, and just everyday maths, because the question we always get asked is, how am I going to use this? So that's just a little notice board. It could be used to show your students how it's actually used every day, or let them come in and do it themselves. Okay.
So we're just going to do it separate.
Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit we're going to give you a couple of seconds about us, about our context. Then we're going to look at why do I need to learn maths or numbers, the histories of numbers in general and the history of numbers. Then we're going to look at when will I ever use this, because this is the question that we're asked all the time. So we'll look at a day in the life of a Youth Reach student, and then we'll look at how event planning and budgeting and how it all is involved in that. And then we look at why do we need algebra, because everyone wants to know, well, when will I ever use algebra? So we'll look at algebra in action in a theoretical aspect, and then algebra in action in a practical aspect. So that's me there, my cartoon character. I'm Sharon. I'm 16 years teaching. I have QQI levels 3, 4 and 5. I have a range of subjects, but primarily maths. I have IT, customer service, retail payment procedures, sales techniques, administration, teamwork, BKSB, and a few others that we didn't throw up there.
Hi, I'm Elaine, and that's my cartoon. I'm 26 years teaching. I've done QQI levels 3, 4 and 5. I've junior cert and leaving cert, and I also have a range of subjects, as you can see there, and primarily my subject would be maths. And we both work here in Blanchetown Youth Reach for DDLETB.
So that's our context and about us. So our context is we're Blanchetown Youth Reach. We're based here in the main street. We're under the DDLETB umbrella, and our awarding body is QQI. So the Youth Reach was established itself in 1989, and it's a second chance education for kids who are just not suited to mainstream school. So the program varies from Youth Reach to Youth Reach. We're here deliver QQI levels 3 and 4. At one stage we did do 5, but we're now primarily looking at 3 and 4. The cohort of our students here at present are aged between 15 and 19. They have a range of learning abilities and like educational experiences, from really good to really bad. So we have a huge variety of kids in our classrooms. We also see the effects of COVID. So you have a lot of anxiety, you have a lot of attendance, being able to attend school, even their social interaction. So we have to deal with a lot of those issues as well in our classrooms. And our building itself is very, very old, but it is very well maintained. We have small classrooms, which is nice because we have small groups then, and it is an old purpose-built school, but it is very, very old, but it is well maintained. So we're actually very lucky in sense of our building.
So why do I need this? This is a question that in the many years of teaching that we have between us, this is the question we're asked practically every day. Why do I need this? So what we found was to actually show the history of numbers in general, where numbers actually came from, who started using numbers first. So early number systems, they all have one thing in common. They're all required to use a symbol or symbols if you write it down and record somewhere. That's basically how numbers came from history. Okay, so for this, we're going to look at the history of numbers in general. We're going to look at key figures in numbers. We're going to look at the evolution of numbers around the world, and then what life would be like without numbers.
So we look at history and how we counted before we actually had numbers as we know them. So we used our fingers, we used tally marks, and there was glyphs. So we emphasized to the kids in the classroom that using your fingers is a perfectly acceptable way of adding or subtracting or, you know, counting. You know, the tally marks we use when we're using our data handling. So we use tally marks when we're doing our surveys and, you know, gathering our responses. So we just show them that even though these numbers go back 5,000-6,000 years, we're still using things, we're still using fingers, we're still using tally marks, we're still using symbols for them.
So two figures in history that we would look at, the main ones for us would be Descartes. We do QQI level 4 and QQI level 3 here. So the main one we look at here would be Descartes, who discovered geometry, coordinate geometry. We tell the story of how he discovered it. He seen a spider on the ceiling one day and wanted to know how he would record where that spider was on the ceiling. So we get the students to do a little bit of background, see what they can find out about themselves, and kind of puts more emphasis on it and makes it kind of a little bit more real to them. Then we, of course, Pythagoras. We all know Pythagoras' theory, so we show them how that evolved, how it became, and where we actually would use that. And then Archimedes as well would be the main one for geometry. So they were the three main ones that we would use. So we kind of give them a little bit of history about them and how they discovered, and then when they realised how far back when they actually lived, they're a bit shocked to see that we're still actually using the same theories. The same theories still actually work in today's world, in a much more technological world than they would have had back then.
Right, so then we just had a quick look for ourselves, the evolution of numbers. So back through the centuries, what did numbers look back in the 5th century, in the 6th, and in the 9th and 10th century? So some of them have changed. 8 seems to have been the same all the way through, but we just showed them, you know, this is just the way numbers have evolved over the years and how we have 1 to 9 that we have now.
So that's just numbers, how they look around the world in different languages and how they would actually look to them. As you can see, the number 8 again is same medieval and now. The 0 tends to be the same right across. And a lot of the other numbers are similar, but not the same. It's just to show them that the numbers look different around the world, but they still do the same job as anything else, yeah?
And then we always say some things about, like, you know, they say, when will I ever use this? Life without numbers, nothing could be measured. So you wouldn't be able to go shopping for the best price, or preparing your food, or understanding how a loan works if you were to get a loan and pay it back, or even doing decorating in your house, or a bit of sewing or baking. You know, all of this, there's numbers included in all of this. And we just stress them that numbers are so important in their lives, and that, you know, understanding numbers is so important. So we show them, like, what it would be like without having numbers.
So we obviously showed them all the history of how numbers are evolved, how numbers became, but a lot of the time that's actually not relevant to them because they still don't see where they're actually going to use it. So then we explained that when you have numbers, it opens up the world to you. It helps you to become a more successful member of society. It helps you to have some input. It helps you to understand the world you live in. And just basically that nothing we could do without numbers. So, next.
Right. So the next thing we're going to do is the history of your numbers. So you as a person, and we say to the students as well. So if you have your mobile phone, it would be great if you could Google menti.com. So I'll put it up there for you. So the numbers are assigned to you for various different reasons. So we're going to have a look at some of those. So on your mobile phone or your smart device, www.menti.com. So if you're able to do that, great. And it will just ask you for a code, and the code is 17345258. If anyone needs any assistance with that, it is pretty straightforward, menti.com, and it should just ask you for a code. And when that code is in, if anyone's having any problems, just maybe put your hand up or something and we can see.
And again, this question here then also opens up data for them, which we have a data handling is part of QQI level 4. And it is also part of QQI level 3. So it kind of opens up data and kind of introduces data to them, so how we actually start recording information.
Now I am going to attempt to stop sharing for a second and go in and see some of your responses. So bear with me. So we're going to...
Sorry, can you leave the code for another minute? My internet here in the west of Ireland is very slow. Thank you. Sorry. I'll tell you when I've got it.
And anyone else wants to unmute and say if they're having any problems, just go ahead and unmute.
So from logging in, it's create your own Menti. So is that what we're aiming to do? No, sorry.
It should just.
Oh no, sorry, it's asking me to join. That's fine.
Code,
Yeah. Thank you.
Stick in a code,
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I'm in. Thank you.
Great. So what we're going to ask you then, what was the first number assigned to you? So we're just looking for your response on what was your number assigned to you. I am going to attempt to pause this for a second. Is everybody okay? Pause this for a second. Do a new share. Here is it. No, it's one of them.
And while Sharon's doing that, one thing that was actually pointed out to me yesterday is how questions are worded. So for example, in this particular question, it says, what was the first number assigned to you? That suggested to some of our literal students that they want an actual number, not the actual word, like for example, your PPS number. So we will reword that question to do it, to put it to our students again. And in our assignment, we will reword that question as well, because obviously what's obvious to me when I'm putting together an assignment or a task is not always it's not always obvious to the student. So just to be careful with the literal wording.
Oh, there. I thought that was a one coming up. So a couple of the responses coming up there. 1, your birthday, the number 7, you know, so that's, people see this as being relevant just to them. But what we look at is,
so again, sorry, Sharon, again, you can see there where obviously the question again there was, what was the first number assigned? And people have actually given us a number. What was the actual number?
Yeah.
So what we actually wanted there was, like, for example, your birthday. But again, problem noted, and we will fix it.
Yeah. Okay, so 25. So maybe that's your lucky number. Maybe that is it, you know, maybe that's coming up with a lotto or something. So what was the first number assigned to you? So maybe that was your school roll number, or maybe that was the house address or something you lived in. So we just get the kids to kind of basically think, okay, I need to go back up here, resume share. And new share. And where were we? Here, were we? Yeah, that was the one there. I don't know if I have to go back to the beginning screen here. I'm back in there 1 sec now. See. Pause that share, do a new share. Oh, there we go. I think that's us. Are we back? Oh.
No, we still can see the Menti screen.
And resume share.
Yes, we're back to your presentation.
Look at that. Every day is a school day. Every day is a school day. So when we look at this, so the numbers that are assigned to you, so there's actually numbers assigned to you before you're even born, and they would include the likes of your estimated conception date, or your due date, or a hospital chart number that your mother would have, or prenatal data checks like the weight of the fetus, the size of the fetus, different measurements and stuff. So there is actually numbers assigned to you that's specific to you before you're even born, and we just get the students to be thinking about that and how numbers has impacted them. Okay, any questions on that, the numbers assigned to you, or anything? Okay, we'll move on. So, right.
Okay, so still looking at the history of your numbers. From the day you're born, you have a lot of numbers that are relevant to you, but they're also shared with other people. For example, your birth date, time, length, weight, shoe size, clothes size, your house number, your position in your family. There's a lot of numbers that you have that are not particularly yours specifically. They are shared with other people. So we get the students to look at that, seeing that find numbers that are actually shared with people, and then we also get to have numbers that are relevant to them but are not shared with other people. So it's a way of getting to look again through how numbers are used throughout life and how numbers are assigned throughout life. So numbers that are relevant to you but not shared with other people include things like your PPS number, your passport number, your driving license, registration plate, insurance, tax disc, your birth, marriage, death cert. They all contain numbers. Your bank account, and then your various numbers in that, your BIC, your IBAN, your password, your login details. Then you have your debit cards and credit cards, and then medical cards, records, medical cards, records, hospital, dental, schools have numbers belong to.
So many.
Employees have numbers belong to. So it's making them look at, you have so many numbers around the world, and without them numbers, you wouldn't be identified.
So we're going to look at a day in the life of a Youth Reach student. So we'll just put little graphics up here and we're going to go through them. So there they are, jumping out of bed in the morning, having their shower, having their breakfast, waiting for the bus, getting on the bus, going to Youth Reach, checking their schedule, going into the room, have maybe a practical class, and then maybe some leisure activity in the afternoon. So we're going to have a look at each of these individually, and we're going to see where numbers are relevant in their day, in their lives.
So the first thing we do obviously is wake up. We wake up different ways. Some of us have an alarm clock that will wake us up. Some of us have a phone that will wake us up. And some of the students obviously have a mother who can only shout them, but she's probably not shouting numbers. Then when nearly every one of the students would actually tell us the first thing they do when they wake up is actually pick up their phone. So then it's just letting them identify then that when you're using your phone, you're using things like your phone number, your WhatsApp, your chats all contain numbers. And then, of course, all the binary codes and everything else that actually makes up your phone is also numbers.
So after we've woken up, then we're going to jump into the shower. So there we are. Now, some of these numbers are not set by the students or relevant to them, but there would be like the temperature of the water, okay, or the water pressure. So they wouldn't necessarily, you know, set those pressures or be aware of them, but there is numbers that are affecting them. And then the time allocation. So that again, then you'll have Mammy shouting, "You're in there 10 minutes, Johnny, come on, let's get out." So you will have, you have 10 minutes to have your shower before you have to leave, before you have to get your bus, or before you have to do something else, or your breakfast. Okay, so then after your shower.
Okay, so looking at breakfast, this is just the same as any other meal, really. You would use numbers quite a lot throughout it. So you just pick breakfast, and we pick a couple of the things that she has there on the table. So she has toast. So you have a toaster timer. Now that to the students sometimes is a number and sometimes just a dial with no numbers on it. If your toaster's as old as mine. So your toaster timer you'd have, and then there's also the heat setting on your toaster, and depending on how new your toaster is, there's also a lot of other facilities on it. So then you have your best before dates on all your produce, whatever you're using. You'd obviously have to check the best before dates. And then, of course, your stuff is stored in the fridge, and the fridge, of course, has a temperature as well that you have to set it at, which is also a number.
So then after breakfast, we're going to get the bus to Youth Reach. So I'm standing there waiting. So I need to know the right bus stop number because they all have numbers now. I also need to know that's the bus stop number. Then I also need to know how much am I going to need? Am I going to need the exact fare? What am I going to need? I know a lot of students have leap cards and stuff, but still some of them are still using cash on the bus. The what?
Leap cards have to be topped up.
Oh, they have to be topped up. Your bus timetable. So if the bus at 8:10 doesn't come, is there going to be one at 15:15, 20:00? Am I going to make it into Youth Reach in time? You know, so there's your bus timetable. And then there's the actual bus. So there's 3 or 4 buses could stop at the one, but I have to make sure that I'm getting on the right bus. So your bus number. So that's me. I'm on the way. I'm traveling into Youth Reach. So, and then your time. How long is it going to take me in the journey to get to Youth Reach? So my travel time. So.
Okay, so then for our students, the first thing you do when you get to Youth Reach is check their schedule for the day. So the schedule tells them things like their class times and durations. For example, they would have maths from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Then it also tells them their lunch times and the lunch duration. And then most importantly to them is the home time.
Home time.
And then once you've looked at their schedule, it obviously tells them what room they need to go to. So our little fella has to go to room number 3. So off he pops now to start his class.
Right. So there's your room number as well. So you're even within Youth Reach there. So we picked 2 classes. One was practical and one was theoretical, and we identified the areas where numbers are relevant in their class. So there's a little man who's going to tell us all about it. So we went into the cooking class. So these are all the areas that numbers are going to be absolutely crucial inside your cooking class. So you have your weighing of your stuff, you have your measuring, you know, following a recipe. You have your ratio, so how many parts to this is going to do that. Your portion, so if I want to make 7 scones or 10 scones, what how am I going to need? Your cooking time, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. Again, you have to work and you have to do all this together, and your cooking temperature. So we've all of those, that's just in a very practical, and that's very obvious for the students. Because when we ask them, where did you use numbers today? They say, oh, I was weighing and I was measuring, and that's very obvious to them. What's not obvious to them is in the likes of a theoretical class, like say communications, for example. So in communications, there will be your assignment word count. So some of our level 4s might have 1,000 word count or maybe 1,500. So they have to be aware of that, and many they need, or many they already have. Are they over? Are they under? So CV dates. So when they're doing their CVing, career planning, you know, they have to be aware of when they were in school, when they left school, when they were in secondary school, you know, even work experience dates and stuff. So they have to be available They have to be aware of these. Their login details, before they can do anything on their computer, they have to log in, and they have passwords, and some of them have numbers in them. All of our students have passwords in them, and they're their birthdays normally. Assignment marks, so the modules are broken down. So some, like, you get 50% collection of work, 50%, you know, assignment, or some is 20% for exams all around. So they need to know, and they need to know the progression through that. Inserting page numbers, something as simple as that, putting it onto their assignments, inserting page numbers. Then we have your contents page. So we don't use this as often, but on occasion we have got them to do a contents page. And then again, it's relevant with all the page numbers. And with all of that, then you need time management. So you need to know, when am I going to get this assignment done? You know, where's my deadline? How long will it take me to do this? How long will it do that? So they're constantly using the numbers. And then, right, so our leisure activity.
So we looked at an activity then after we've reached 40 during the evening time. So we picked a leisure activity for the gym. So how do we use numbers in the gym? So first thing we do, we look at obviously is the weights. So we look at the weight, the actual weight, and the weight of the weight. How many of them we're going to put on. So for example, our man here probably has 3 weights on each side. So they'll add up, if they want to lift 60 kilos and they're all 10, but then they put 3 on each side, or they could look at a 20 and a 10, or so it's just a way of letting them look at different weights, how they could still put 2 weights on one side and 3 on the other and still have the same weight. Then they would count their reps. Things they would always check then would be your body weight, your actual measurements, the speeds of the machines you're using, the weighing scales. I don't know, most people I think they use the gym actually pop onto the weighing scales every so often.
And cry.
I do anyway. Then you have your diet, food, and diet preparation time. Measurements, weighing again, which is all kind of the same as what you had in your cooking class. Then if you're attending classes, you need to check the class schedules, then work around your time management around getting to class, around how long you want to be there for, and when you need to be home. Then of course you have the cost of your gym, which you also need to factor into your budget for the week. And then your progress, how you're going to measure your progress. And of course your speed, distance, and time, which is also measures in the gym.
Right, so that's the day in the life of the Youth Reach students, and we get them to write a paragraph of what you did yesterday, and they write, I did this, I went to Youth Reach, and then we get them to rewrite the paragraph and ask, okay, so put your times into that. Okay, so I got the 8 o'clock bus and it took me 20 minutes to get there. Then I had 4 classes, then I had 3 classes, and I had my lunch break. So then they can actually, they're putting the times into what they did yesterday. So even if it was a Sunday, well, I went to my nanny's, or I went to whatever, I went to the shop. Well, how did you get there? You know, did you use public transport? Did you walk? How long did it take? So we look at those. So our next one then we're going to have a quick look at is different maths activities that we've done. What's coming up on the next one? All right, yeah.
So with Maths Week, we make a big deal out of Maths Week here. It's as you know, it's this week, which is still the beginning of the year for our students. So we use Maths Week as kind of building a rapport with students, which we find is very important. So one of the years, what we did was we made this maths trail with the students. So the students went around the centre. First of all, we brought the kids over to Corky Park. Corky Park have a fantastic maths trail. So to give them an idea of what it is, we went over to Corky Park and we went around to Corky Park and did the maths trail over there. And students loved it. And then we tried to see what could we actually do with this. So we came back to Youth Reach then, and we went around all the different rooms in Youth Reach, all the outside, the car park, the woodwork around the kitchen, all the rooms. And we found maths in all the rooms, and the students come up with this book. So we just cut a couple of little pages out of the booklet here, just to show you.
And I appreciate it might not be as clear to read, but we'll give you an idea of, look at the wheelchair parking space in the car park, state what shapes it's made up of. So there was parallelograms, there was squares, there was circles, there was squares. So they were able to identify shapes within something like a car parking space. We pitch from people's offices around the building, are the blinds vertical or horizontal? We actually have both in some of these rooms. So it was then again, it's just another learning way of that. What are we looking for? Or what was the third class? So on the yellow group on a Friday, they had to read the timetable, get familiar with, and would say, well, what does the yellow group have on a Friday last class? You know, so it's getting them to read information and process information. But this is only a snapshot of, like, the booklet is quite long. There's games in it, there's jokes in it. So it's really fun and interactive. We okay with that? Okay, so this is just a couple, yeah.
So then what we did, after looking at that, we decided, instead of just learning ourselves, how could we help this? What could we do with this information that we have? Could we use it somewhere else? So we had a little focus group with the students, and we decided we were going to try the local schools, the local primary schools, and see if one of them would let us actually create a maths trail in their school. So we approached St. Philip's School. It was the first school we approached, and they agreed to it with us. So our students there, as you can see, that the students, we went up to the school when the school was closed, so we could actually take photographs. We went around the school, around the outside of the school, and took photographs of various things around the school, various shapes, things they could count, things they could measure out. We went through a lot of different things they could do up in the school. When we actually did that, then the students actually did create a maths trail down for the school, and then we actually went up to the school and went around the school with the students. But of course, we live in Ireland, so we had to actually create an indoor one as well. So we had an indoor plan if the outdoor plan didn't work out. So they created maths games like what we do here in Youth Reach, and they had a lot of maths games. So on the day, we had a little bit more time than we thought we were going to have, so we were able to do both. It was a nice day out.
It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
But it also allowed students to use maths in that anybody over 18 had to get guard clearance. Anybody under 18 then had to get sanctioned by a local TD. Or so we found our local TD, David McGuinness, and he came up to the centre, and he vouched for them all and brought them up to the school. So it allowed them to see that the other things that go on behind the scenes that they don't necessarily see. Then we also had to book our bus. We had to make sure we had enough students to go on the bus. And the bus time, which was the bus driver free during that time. They had to check his timetable, check his schedule. So a lot of work went into behind the scenes to actually just making the actual book. But it was very successful.
It was brilliant.
They really enjoyed it, yeah. And the students in the school really enjoyed it as well.
And like I say, we make a big deal here out of our maths week. So this is just a couple of our students. We had them measuring. So we had them like using their feet to measure the length of the hall, and then how they find the length of the hall, so they measure their feet. We had them using rulers to do certain things, and you know, we had a little picture that they came up with themselves. They all put their 1 foot in, you know, they got away. So there was like a really nice photograph as a member of the day. So we always have great fun here with our maths week, always. So we just like to share some photographs with you. And then we have some winning bankers. So we have a cup. So there's a couple of the students who gave us permission to put their photograph up there. They're on the winning team. They've medals around their neck and all. So and then we're just pouring 7-Up. There was no alcohol involved. 7-Up been put into the winner's cup. So we always make a big deal of the winning group, and it's always a great bit of fun. And again, it's all based around numbers and games and everything that we do within the centre. Need to move on to the next one. Yeah.
So we actually don't just do physical games. We do games on the computer. We do games like, for example, we do Jenga, but not traditional Jenga. So the plan, you had to make a tower as tall as you can. So that was the rule. Now we find the students always come around and find some quicker way of doing something, and we always take it on board. And yet, if you found a quicker way to do it, even if you cheated, you'll still get the mark for it. So, for example, we were doing the Towers of Hanoi one day, and the rule was you had to move all the rings from one pole to the other, and yeah, you can't put a small on top of a big one. So one of the students just came along, picked up the 7 rings, popped them on the other pole, and said, "There, I'm done."
And we couldn't argue with that.
Yeah. Argue with that. Yeah. So the following year, then when we put that into our booklet, we said you can't do that. So it's a learning curve for us as well. We're always learning as well.
Yeah.
So the Jenga one is very popular. They found ways to cheat that as well. They put the
blue tack.
Blue tack. They've done sellotape. They've stood up against a door.
Yeah.
To make it stand and use the door for support. It's very innovative, and we always give them a mark for it if they come up with a new way of doing it. We always still make sure they know, yeah, that's okay. So there's always a rule. As you can see there, we would have maths week for the whole week. We would usually do in the afternoon, because you do in the morning, you're not getting them back for class. Forget about that. So as you can see, the orange group on Monday we're doing Jenga, on Thursday the red group, Wednesday the yellow group, and so on. And then in room 4, so every room we have something else going on. In room 4, then you can see the orange group down that we're in Wednesday, and we're in room 4, and they would have been playing, I think that's Don't Cross the Line, is that?
Yeah, Don't Cross the Line.
Don't Cross the Line, that would have been, so that's just another computer game where you can progress through, and you have to cross over the lines in different ones.
Well, it's great competition. We mix the groups, so we have level 3s and level 4s in different groups. They're also getting to know each other, and then we have what do we have, like a prize, usually a day out of the cinema or something, for the winning group. So there's great competition within the teachers, and we have great support with the teachers, and we have everybody really gets stuck in and has a bit of crack with it, so it's really good. So that's the end of our maths week and our activities that we were doing. So the next thing we're going to move on is how we can look at event planning and budgeting. I love that.
Sorry. I thought I spoke to the last one, but it's okay. Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
so event planning and budgeting. So we've looked at this. Most of our students, the next big event in their lives is going to be their 21st. So we picked a student, Kelly. She's turning 21 in 3 months' time. And the 3 months' time is always relevant because it's depending on the time of the year to what kind of this all goes into one big assignment, and depending on what time of the year, then the mother is pregnant, she's having a baby. There's loads more go into this. But anyway, Kelly is turning 21 in 3 months' time. She's planning on having a party to celebrate, and there are 120 people on our guest list, right? So outlined then we have a list of the requirements for both parties. So again, here we use Menti. We get the students to put their list up, and we adjust our list according to what they put up for what they want. So as with all the students, they want everything. So this one, Kelly wants a venue. She wants a cake. She wants party favours. She wants a candy cart. She wants a bus. She wants food, DJ and entertainment. She wants decorations, balloons, etc. She wants a photographer, and she wants a champagne toast. Not much. Good party for Kelly.
Bougie. We also adapt this then for our level 3 students, and we bring it down a little bit. So if your students, you know, you can adapt this accordingly as your students and the level of your students. So we change it all the time.
But this part for the input for the start of it, we'd never have to adapt that because they always want everything.
Yeah.
At the start.
Yeah. Oh, makeup and everything. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we do then is we give them 3 options. So you have the Red Cow, Parker's Hotel, and the Country Club. So we give them the different costings, and you can see there's a huge range in the costings. There's a 1,400 and there's a 4,000. Okay. But when you break it down, so what's included in your 1,400? So your food is included, and the distance from there is 35 kilometers. But your Parker's Hotel is much cheaper to hire the room, but you don't get as much, but you have to pay for the food per person. So we look at, right, well then, which is the better value? And then the Country Club is 4,000. So that's great. That's marvelous. Everything's included. And it is 20 kilometers away. So we always make it different. So they come out with, and we do the calculations. The students get involved. You know, some of them are like, oh no, I'll just take the money and I'd have it at my back garden. And the conversation, the discussion that happens in the classes is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And you wouldn't want some of them organising your party, you certainly wouldn't. They'd have a tent out the back garden for you. But the discussion is great, but it gives them a real sense of, right, well, I only have this much in my budget. What can I get? Where can I go? What can I do? What can I cut back on? So it really gives them, you know, a real life scenario, because they're doing their own 21st, you know what I mean? Or they're supposed to be doing their own 21st. So it really gives them a real life scenario that they can work with and that they understand. So here it is.
So after getting the costings of the event, you can see all 3 venues included food and a DJ or entertainment. The remaining items then are below. So we get the cost of each of them, and we just Googled this, and so the cost of a cake was 120. The party favours were €5 each. The candy cart filled was 180. The bus is €100 per 5 kilometers. Sorry. The decoration and balloons were there. The decoration and balloons were 350. Photographer was 450, and then a champagne toast was 600. So then we get the students to write it all out and do a cost analysis for each one.
So here's your cost analysis.
So within the cost analysis, then we would make them write down everything that's required, and then whether it's included or not included, because it kind of makes sure that nothing is actually left out. So within that, then you can see for the food on the Red Cow, the food for the Red Cow is 40 times 8, which gives you 320. And because the food is already included was only for 80 people. The photographer then, you can see, is 450. The bus is 5 kilometers away, so 35 divided by 5. It's 35 kilometers away, sorry, so 35 divided by 5, multiplied by 100 is 700. Now again, you can just give them a price for this to make it easier for the level 3 students or harder for your level 5s. You can make it do a bit more maths in it, or you can just give them an actual cost of the bus. So from this you can see the Red Cow is 3,650, Parker's Hotel is 4,070, and the Country Club is 5,180. So from this then we give them a load of options then. So we'd say, okay, so we only have 3,500, what can we do now? So then it's getting them to look at other things within there, look at what they could exclude. Like, could they get rid of the bus? Could they get rid of the candy cart? Could they get rid of the party fares? Do they need a champagne toast? So it makes them look at all the different things they can look at, and then we also get them to suggest an alternative. So for example, instead of champagne toast, you can just get up and say thanks to everybody. For your party favours, again, just get up and say thanks to everybody. You can just have a toast with the drink you have already. Photographer, you could replace and take your own photographs. So just making them look at what could I take out and what could I use instead. We still want to have this, so what could I use instead? Down we get them to choose which option they would go for and why. Suggest an advantage and a disadvantage of each option. So for example, the country club might be much more luxurious, so that's an advantage of that. I think it was Parker's Hotel wanted everybody off. One of the options anyway wanted everybody off the premises by 12 o'clock. Did you want the party to end at 12 o'clock?
That was a non-runner.
That's obviously the one that gets dumped every time because they want the party online. So it's just kind of look at all the different ways what a cost analysis actually does, what's the benefit of it.
And then rationalise spending that amount of money as opposed to something else. So yeah.
And it also opens their eyes to realise how much you're expecting their parents to pay.
Yeah. So that's that section of it, and now we're going to move on to that's our country club. So why do we need algebra, which is the question that we get every time we start algebra. You're guaranteed, if I had a penny for every time I was asked that question, I'd be a millionaire. So we're going to look at what is algebra. So, you know, algebra is the part of maths in which letters and other general symbols are used to represent numbers and quantities in formula and equations. And that's a bit wordy, but what we explain to them is it's using letters to represent something else within which are numbers. It helps us to solve problems quicker and easier. They don't really get that, and they don't really, you know, but we do our best to try and explain, well, when was the very first time that you experienced algebra? And they'd say, here now, you know, they don't want to engage. Well, we've never used algebra. And we'd say, well, back in the day you were asked, you have one apple and you add on another apple. How many apples have you got? You have 2 apples. So there's your very first experience of algebra. You've got 1a plus 1a is giving you 2a. So we bring it back to right back. Do you remember in school you added apples and apples? You added oranges and oranges, but you couldn't add the oranges to the apples. So we bring it right back to them and say, oh yeah, I did use that before. And then they see it as being real and relevant. So then we look at it in theory.
So algebra in action theory. So we looked at a trip to the zoo. What would it cost you? So we came up with the entry to the zoo cost €25 per adult, €15 per child, that's over 5s, and €5 for a toddler, that's anybody 5 or under. So let's put that into an equation then. Usually we would use the X, Y letters or A, B, C, but we use whatever letters you want because algebra can be any letters you want. So just use these to start off. So then they understand a little bit easier if they say like 25 for an adult, 15 for the child, and €5 for the toddler. So put that into an equation. Once they've written the equation then, they can then sub in for the equation. So find out how many people are coming with us, who's coming to the zoo with us. So in this case, we have a family of 2 adults, 2 children, and 2 toddlers. So they replace then the A, C, and T with the adults, children, and toddlers, and in this case, it's 2 for all. And they realise then that 25 by 2 is 50, 15 by 2 is 30, and 5 times 2 is 10, and that gives us a total of 90. So it's going to cost €90 for this particular family to go to the zoo. However, then we get them to look at using the same equation then, how the same equation can work right across the board for a number of different things. So using the same equation is then for a different family. This family has 3 adults, 4 children, and 1 toddler. So again, sub in for the adults, the children, and the toddler. And then 25 times 3 is 75, 15 4 is 60, and 5 times 1 is 5. And that gives us a total of 240 for this, or 140, sorry, for this family to go to the zoo. Using this equation then, lets us introduce then harder equations such as a quadratic equation. Don't know what it is, don't know how to use it, but you can see that that same equation can work for subbing in right across. So it kind of starts out really simple, and then by the time you finish, you're actually able to solve a quadratic equation using the formula.
Okay, so this is the algebra in action. It's a practical one. Okay, so we give them examples again. We reduce it down or we make it harder depending on the level of our students. So a rectangular garden is being designed with a circular pond in the center of a square decking area. The customer also wants a triangular shaped flower bed in the corner of the garden, and the rest of the garden will be grass. So we give them dimensions. So we said the garden has a length of 20 meters and a width of 15. The side measurements of the flower bed are 5 and 10. The side length of the decking area is 10. The radius of the pond is 3. Now, that's a lot of, so we would give them a visual. So we give them a little map. So it helps them visualize what they need to do, because that's all just numbers to them. And, you know, it kind of stresses them out a little bit. It's like, I don't know. But when you give them a little visual like that, it's much easier for them to say, oh, that's what that is, and that's that. So what they're asked to do here is calculate the area of the grass. Now, this is only a section of one of our questions. It does get larger and bigger, and you use the information on, but we just use this section for today. So here we are, and how are we using the algebra?
So the question was to get the area of the grass. So the first thing we do then is we get the total area, which is the length by the width, which is 20 meters by 15 meters, which gives us 300 meters squared. Then we get the area of the flower bed. Flower bed is a triangle shape, so the area of that is a half the base by the height, which is 5 by 10, which is 50, and half of that is 25. And then we get the area of the decking piece. And the area of the decking piece then again is length by width, which is 10 by 10, which is 100 meters squared. Okay, and then the area of the grass area then is our total area minus the area of the flower bed minus the area of the decking, which gives us 300 meters squared minus 25 meters squared minus 100 meters squared, which gives us 175 meters squared is the grass area. And then of course the pond is irrelevant here in calculating the grass, but it is still meant to be in the picture. So
oh, there's the pond. Sorry,
the pond is still here. As you can see then from that graphic, you can see this thick brown border on it. So we would go on then and say measure the perimeter of the garden, and we want to buy a fence, and a fence costs whatever for so many meters. How many panels of fencing do we need? We go into things like what's the border? We're putting a sleeper around across the front of the flower bed. So again, then you use Pythagoras' theory then to find the length of the flower bed. The pond is going to have a rockery around it. So what size is the rockery going to be? Various questions we could use in that, or you can literally make it harder for your higher level students or lower for your lower level students, and make it work for whatever you can there.
So I'm so glad I get to do this slide and Elaine gets to do the next one, and you'll see why in a minute. Because we always feel that, you know, building the rapport with the kids, it's getting down on their level, making the stupid jokes, you know, doing all that with them. It makes maths more fun for them. It makes the numbers more, you know, we're always at it. We're always doing stupid questions. We're always doing stupid jokes. And, you know, the kids are always rolling their eyes at us and say, oh no, here we go again, you know. But it's just building that little rapport with the students so that you get like, you know, well, we're going to do and we're going to be building up to maths week and all this. So we feel that it's really, really important, and it helps because it kind of takes the stress out of maths for them, because for them maths is like, oh no, not maths again, but it just relieves the stress and the kind of their perception of how maths is always difficult or maths is always hard, and I never understand it. So that's it. So we always throw in our things. So this is what we look like when we come into work in the morning time. This is what we look like.
So we come in feeling fully energized and telling their stupid jokes and laughing at them. We think they're funny, even though they're not. The kids give out to us then for them, but then they actually do laugh at them, and I have heard them say them outside. So we come up with our little stupid jokes. We have a bit of crack with them, and we look amazing coming in. But by the time we leave, then we don't look amazing anymore.
This is what we look like when we leave.
This is how we feel at 3:30 when we're walking out the door.
And I hope you all can appreciate this is what we're going to grow into. So this wasn't our favorite slide. And then we just have questions for anybody. If anyone's any questions, unmute or put it into the chat or whatever you want to do. We did well. 11:45.
Sharon and Elaine, thanks a million. It was so practical. It was great fun. There were so many tips and suggestions there. There has to be a lot of things that people can use. Just so far in the questions, there's one question from Bridie. She said, I'd love a copy of the book. I wonder, is that possible?
Sure. Send an email on and we'll send it to you.
So Bridie, if you send me,
you
send an email to me, Bridie, I can send it on to Sharon and Elaine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, girls. I think I'd like to be in your maths class.
Everybody says that. We always do.
Come on, you're welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Thank you.
Bridie, the booklet is tailored to our centre. So we have things in it like Martin's office or Mark's office, but obviously you'll tailor that to your own.
I was thinking even there, your square, the practical would be good for QQI level 3, instead of pieces of paper that they're actually doing a project,
Yeah, we would do that with them. With data handling as well, we'd actually bring the students outside and we'd all just sit at the front steps and literally just count the cars going by in 10 minutes. So everybody.
Yeah, that's an old one, all right.
Yeah, everybody's counting.
I like the gardens, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's counting something different on the car, so they're not all to count the cars. One person is looking at the reg plates, one person is looking at the colours, one person is looking at the type of car, one person looking at how many people is in the car, and then we bring it all back in to one big project to say, you know, this is what happens.
It's chaos, but it works.
Yeah, this is what goes by. So we'd only sit there for like 15 minutes. So then we'd multiply that then out down to make it this many would go by in a day, or this many go by in an hour, or whatever. And then the committee put it into bar chart, so you'd have like, it wouldn't just be the count of the cars that went by, it's all the other information you can gather as well. So it's about showing them that you can gather a lot of data from one piece, from one thing. Like, for example, one car going by can tell you, you can make assumptions from that then as well. You know, like, why did so many cars go by between 9 and 9:30? But you can assume they're going to work or going to drop kids to school, or why was there nobody going by from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock? Well, probably everybody's in work, or, you know, you can assume a lot of things from it then. So, and then it would be, you know, for example, 2020, there's not so many cars from 2020, 21. They wouldn't have found, because during COVID, a lot of people weren't out buying cars, you know, so it's kind of just looking at other ways you can use the data as well. So we find practical exercises are always more understanding for them, and we try to make every lesson we do have some kind of practical element to it at least.
And fun.
And our jokes.
The fun element has definitely come out from this comments there. I see Tony Sweeney wrote great fun and energy. So,
but we looked like that last slide at the end of the day, though. We're shriveled up at the end of the day.
Just about this wasn't a half drink. We looked like that.
Well, that's why we picked the morning one. Is there before we finish up, would anyone else like to unmute and ask a question?
I just wanted to say, it's Imelda here. God bless your energy and enthusiasm, and I'd like to know, what is it that you are on?
We're high on life. High on life, Imelda.
Oh, fair play, ladies. Well done.
Don't put that on YouTube, please.
High on life's positive.
That was my attempt at a joke.
Thanks very much, Imelda.
Thank you, ladies. It was great.
Yeah. Okay. And there's Ruth saying it shows you have great camaraderie and work well together. That is true. You can see you're a great tag team. So thanks a million for that. And that's true, Ruth. Listen, it just leaves me to say once again a really big thank you to Sharon and Elaine for sharing their very practical and very real tips and ideas and things that they've done. I love going to the primary school, the St. Philip's, to make the maths trail and just everything. Even the planning, the 21st was great. There's so many things you could see where if we cut out the bus, we could save so much and all that. So it was really, as you said at the beginning, the kids wanted everything, but then when they saw maybe the bill for everything, they might go, well, is the champagne?
But some of them are looking for Moe and all this, and you're thinking, where in the hell did you get Moe from? You know, they're great. The discussions are brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And that's without the makeup and the tan, and the nails and the hair.
And the night over and everything. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was great. It's great life learning for them as well as numeracy learning and literacy learning in it, you know. So yeah. And yeah, money's no object until it's their own, yeah. So listen, Kevin said as well, thanks so much, great presentation. So from everyone, I'd just like to say thanks a million, Sharon and Elaine. It was really vibrant and great and practical. So thanks so much. And thanks everyone for tuning in. And Sharon and Elaine are going to send me their presentation. I'll mail it on to everyone, and then sometime next week this presentation will be up. It's mainly for people who wanted to tune in today but missed. So thanks everyone, enjoy the weekend. Hope it stops raining.
Thanks very much. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye Bridie, see ya.
Thank you now. Bye-bye.
See ya.